Well, darling, there's only one God. Darling, there's only...
Welcome to the Dirty Bag Podcast. I'm your host, Cookie, and as always, thank you for joining me. You could be anywhere, listening to anybody, but you're here with your mama, because we're going to do a little bit of a follow-up to the statement that has absolutely gone viral on the episode with our dear Robin talking about motherhood being ghetto. I was not prepared for the surplus of women that were going to come forward, the mamas, the grown, seasoned mamas telling their stories. And I didn't realize it was so many of y'all fighting for y'all lives in the streets. Now, granted, yes, motherhood is hard, but I guess I didn't realize I'm not in community with a lot more mature age mothers. I didn't realize how many of y'all was in y'all 40s with multiple children. I couldn't do it. God knew to make my kids almost 2 decades apart when you round to the nearest 10th, because kids are stressful. But the one thing I did see in the comments was people that haven't had children yet that was a little bit nervous. So I wanted to touch on that, because while that was a safe space for mamas to get their issue off, because good mothers are allowed to vent, I don't want y'all to be scared. I don't want to scare y'all away. So what I want to talk about briefly today is the benefits of being what they call geriatric, a geriatric mommy. I think it's disrespectful, but it's okay. Occasionally on social media, you'll see people with these strong ass opinions, and it's always somebody that ain't had nobody's contraction, ain't pushed out nobody's baby, talking about how selfish it is to have babies at later stages in life. Number one, all it takes to get pregnant is to have sex, right? As long as you smashing, there's a likelihood that you might get pregnant. So that's like telling folks to be abstinent. That's not gonna work. And also, birth control, as we're learning, because we finally getting more educated, that's actually quite dangerous for us, and it's been linked to cancer in a lot of women. So let people live their lives. So I'm gonna take y'all back down my journey to motherhood, as if I haven't a million times already. Had my son at 19, okay? Just a few months shy of my 20th birthday. I was not ready. I did not want to be a mom. Like, I wanted to finish college, get in these streets, make some real money, just be a career girl. Like, I didn't feel like I had a motherly bone in my body, which I told my now ex that a million times. And clearly he didn't care, because, it took us, 2 abortions to get to my son. So there's that. There is proof that I was not ready and was not desiring motherhood then. But I would say when my son hit about 12, I started getting baby fever. So that also goes to show you don't know what different stages life's going to take you through to where you're ready. But what I do know now that I have my daughter who's 4.5 is that I needed that time of pruning, to go through some things, to learn about myself as a woman before I gave birth to a little woman. We in 2024, okay? We're in a stage where we saying we want to raise free Black girls. We want our daughters to have the autonomy to do the things that we couldn't do, to have the voices that we weren't allowed to have, to really advocate for themselves. But what you also got to understand is when you are wishing for that kind of child, that means accountability on your end too. That means them actually standing up to you. That means them having a voice. My daughter is 4, y'all, but she be letting me have it. Listen, if I hurt that child's feelings, she has no problem letting me know that, okay? If I am too harsh with her, if I'm not listening, if I'm not being affectionate enough, I don't know what would have happened had I said these kind of things when I was young. But I wanted my daughter to have a voice. But the flip side of that is that voice gonna come back on me sometimes. I couldn't have handled that in my 20s. I probably would have tried to beat it out of her. Because y'all know, Black mothers, we will whoop you for the slightest thing. We need a switch, we need a shoe, we need a broom, a brick, something. If we feel the slightest bit of what we perceive to be disrespect, when it's really somebody just having a voice. So what happens when you have babies later in life? I don't want to say you're a better human, but you are. And the argument about not being around long enough for your kids because you have them at a later date, people die in their 20s all the time. Women, especially the infant mortality rate, just the mortality rate for Black women giving birth is astronomically high. So you can die at any age. There are people that don't make it to 20. There are folks that live to 70 and 80. So it's not something you should really be worried about. I will say I was more intentional about my health with my daughter. I started working out more with my daughter. Now, granted, I went backwards, but I was more intentional about how I lived my life once I had her in a way that I would have never been in my 20s. I thought about the things I put in my body. My entire pregnancy with my daughter, I was like 80% vegan. I drank more water than I ever drank in my life. But you know what the motivation was? I was afraid that because my metabolism just crashed and burned, that I was going to be like 200 pounds. Now, granted, I'm almost damn near 200 pounds now, but ain't because of a pregnancy. It's because I'm eating this Texas food. But the concern that I wouldn't be able to get the weight off because I was in my late 30s, it really pushed me to work very hard during my pregnancy to have the healthiest delivery possible. So you're mindful. Also, you're more intentional about building a support system around you so you can have the kind of pregnancy you want. I didn't know anything about a doula at 19, but I had 3 of them jokers with my daughter. So you have more education and you probably got more access to resources to pay for those things. So I don't want none of y'all to be afraid of motherhood. Yes, it's ghetto. It's going to be ghetto. But it's beautiful when you do it, when you're at a space in life where you know who you are. I think it's better to have kids as a grown, seasoned-ass woman than a little girl that just wants to make sure she's taking advantage of her youth and getting a baby out while she can. Another thing about having babies later in life is that you're intentional about what you allow around them. When you're young, you need a babysitter. You need somebody to watch these kids. You need to be able to work, whatever. You still want your free time. Once you're older and you've been through a little bit of trauma yourself, you're intentional about who has access to your child. So you will make a way out of no way in order to be the parent you want to be. You're trying to be a stay-at-home mom. You might pass up career opportunities to be present for your child because you lived a long enough life to know that the money ain't everything. Sometimes these careers are not going to amount to anything. It's not worth the time you trade in. My son was always a latchkey kid, after school program. He was always with somebody when he was younger because of my career. I would never allow that to happen with my daughter. And it's only because of the maturity I attained from going through things in my 20s and realizing that I wasn't as present of a mother that I could have been for my son because my idea of great parenting was putting food on the table, having a certain title, and just grinding. So I wanted to keep it real short for y'all today. I don't want you to be afraid of having kids later in life. There are benefits that come with it. There are women in their late 40s and 50s rocking it out that's had babies, got small children, and they in the gym. But I mean, now granted, you can't survive on a diet of Hennessy and wings. That's not going to work for you if you're trying to be around for a little bit. But it's okay, y'all. Don't be scared. Have these babies if that's what your heart desires. Have plenty of babies. That's all I got. This will more than likely be a midweek cookie crumble. Whatever we got going on right now, wear your mask, wash your hands, socially distance. And when you get a free moment, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and clean out your dirty bag. Till next time.
Well, darling, there's only one God. Darling, there's only